Good morning, you're watching Anewz. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories. The White House says Trump is to decide on US involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict within 2 weeks. Denmark is to push for Ukraine's EU membership during presidency. Presidents of Turkey and Azerbaijan attended the opening ceremony of the Azabaijan neighbourhood in Kahramanmaraş, the area affected by the February 2023 earthquakes. As the Israel-Iran conflict enters its 8th day, the White House says President Donald Trump wants 2 more weeks before deciding on possible US military involvement. Our Obay Shabandar has more from Washington, D.C.
Wanting to give more time for a diplomatic solution, President Trump has said that he wants at least 2 more weeks before he decides whether to order U.S. military involvement with the ongoing Israeli strikes against Iran's nuclear and strategic missile facilities. The president has been briefed by senior intelligence and military advisors on potential war scenarios that would involve the U.S. bombing of Iran's most prized and heavily fortified nuclear facility, Fordow. According to the latest reports here in Washington, the U.S. president wants to make sure that disabling Fordow would be necessary, given the intelligence community's assessment on just how close Iran could be to produce a nuclear weapon in a relatively short period of time. The director for Central Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, has reportedly told Trump in private meetings that he believes that Iran is very close to possessing nuclear weapons, though no formal order has been given by Iranian leadership to build the bomb, per U.S. intelligence. President Trump told senior aides that he has approved of attack plans for Iran, but he was holding off to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. One key question weighing in on President Trump's mind: if the U.S. does join Israel's war and drop its massive bunker busters, will they actually destroy Iran's most heavily fortified nuclear facility? Some Israeli officials are concerned that Iran can rebuild its ability to produce a nuclear weapon if the Fordow facility is not neutralized. And according to media reports, Pentagon officials have told Trump that they are confident that they have the necessary weapons capable of penetrating and destroying Fordow. But it's not clear if Trump is totally convinced. Trump has told reporters earlier this week that he wants to hold off on making a final decision regarding Iran until the very last minute, given concerns of a broader and prolonged war in the Arabian Gulf and Middle East. Meanwhile, Israeli strikes seem to have damaged the Arak nuclear complex. That's a major Iranian nuclear facility that is capable of producing plutonium, which at a high enough enrichment rate can be used to build a nuclear weapon. For the U.S. president to agree to the strike on Iran, he would have to be confident that the benefits outweigh the risks and that the U.S. military involvement would guarantee the total eradication of Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions. Ubay Shabander for Anewz, Washington, D.C.
Meanwhile, growing numbers of civilians are fleeing from the unrest in Tehran, with many finding refuge in the central city of Yazd, where hostels are offering free accommodation.
With Israel and Iran's airstrikes now stretching into a second week, more civilians are leaving Tehran in search of safety. In the central city of Yazd, local hostels have opened their doors to people displaced by the unrest.
My friend urged me to take all important and valuable items, and she said there were some free hotels in Yazd. She said we could stay until the dust settles. On the road, we had a lot of stress over fuel and GPS malfunction. We finally got here and they readily gave us accommodation. We've been here for 2 nights. Yazd is much safer than other cities.
Hostel manager Amir Khani said the decision to provide shelter was a matter of responsibility and compassion.
Since some people have problems for accommodation, we decided to help those having difficulties finding free accommodation.
According to the human rights activist news agency, Israeli airstrikes in Iran have killed 639 people, including senior military figures and nuclear scientists. Israel says at least 24 civilians have been killed by Iranian missile attacks.
Meanwhile, in Israel, Iranian missile strikes have left deep scars not only on people and buildings but on the future of science, according to Israeli scientists. The Wiseman Institute of Science, a world-renowned research centre in Rehovot, has extensively been damaged in last Sunday's attack, a strike that scientists say could set research back years.
Scientists of the Wiseman Institute of Science in Rehovot looked at the extensive damage caused by an Iranian missile on Sunday to see if they could save some of their research. While no one was killed, it caused heavy damage to multiple labs, snuffing out years of scientific research and sending a chilling message to Israeli scientists that they and their expertise are now targets in the escalating conflict with Iran.
We were hit by an Iranian missile attack that was early Sunday morning. Several of our buildings were damaged. 2 of our buildings were directly hit. Luckily for us, there were no casualties, so there were nobody in the buildings. The buildings were empty, and I think that's the most important thing. None of our students, postdocs, faculty, researchers, nobody was hurt. We did our best to save as much of the samples as we could from the labs, from the buildings, while we were fighting the fire, for example. Clearly, a lot has been destroyed.
The strike on the institute came amid a barrage of missiles and drones launched from Iran towards Israel in retaliation for Israel's strikes, which began Friday, the 13th of June. The extensive damage could potentially set back the research for years.
It will take us a lot of time to essentially recover from this, because some of these experiments really took a lot of time, and we collected tissues. For example, experiment that ran for half a year or 1 year, and you collect the entire process, you collect the tissues from, and you wanted to analyze all these tissue in one day, and you realize that there are no tissues. Everything is gone. I would estimate that it will take us about a year to get into a full gear of research and with everything working again. But again, I want to emphasize that some of this research we will not be able to recover.
The Wiseman Institute, like many Israeli research centers, has ties to the defense sector, including collaborations with firms like Elbit Systems. It's one reason experts believe it became a target in this escalating conflict.
Previously, our Andy Meoch discussed the European Union's stance on the Israel-Iran conflict with Melih Demirtas, a researcher at Cappadocia University. Melih explained the complexities surrounding the bombing of the Fordo site and why only the US is capable of carrying it out.
And yes, these attacks and the plans for these attacks are still continuing. And I think Israel's capacity somehow limited, as they understood now. With the capacity of Iran, of course, we can equalize maybe the capacity of Iran and Israel now on the field, because same missiles, of course, same tactics, maybe same, of course, intelligence advantages they have inside their soils. And unfortunately, the casualties, also civilian casualties, now increasing. Now, Mr. Trump turned to be a key personality again in the diplomatic fields, maybe in the military sense also. We hope that Mr. Trump will still continue on the path of diplomacy, because he changed his mind in one day and the other day, and we cannot maybe follow so easily what he will really decide on this very critical issue in our region, in a very near region, especially in Turkey. As you also may remember, our President Erdogan said important things about the issue. But now, I think the Fordo and the other nuclear capacities of Iran, they are all kept nearly in a very secure position inside the very vast land of Iran. And Israel definitely needs this help or this support from the United States. But I think today, Mr. Putin and Russia gave another signal from another, of course, pole of this world politics. And he said that already that they're also there. I mean, some experts, some Russian, forces, we don't know. I think some nuclear experts. I think the issue or the crisis turns to be much more interesting in the coming days.
Denmark will continue preparing Ukraine for European Union membership, despite Hungary blocking negotiations. This comment comes as the Nordic country takes over the presidency of the European Council from the 1st of July. That's according to the European Affairs Minister Marie Beer, who said that Denmark would put pressure on Hungary, while at the same time do everything it can to make Ukraine continue with necessary reform work. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has strongly opposed providing NATO military and EU aid to Ukraine, saying the country's EU membership would destroy Hungarian farmers and the wider economy. Denmark will also seek to reach an agreement among EU nations on the bloc's planned 2040 climate goals. Finland's parliament has voted to withdraw from the international treaty banning anti-personnel landmines. Finnish President Alexander Stubb defended the move, describing neighbouring Russia as an aggressive state that uses landmines ruthlessly. Helsinki will be able to begin stockpiling landmines 6 months after formally notifying the United Nations. Before Finland, NATO and EU members, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia and Poland also took steps to abandon the treaty. NATO leaders are set to agree on a new defence spending target at the upcoming summit of the alliance next week in The Hague. Some analysts say that the sticking point might be the timeline of the new target's implementation.
NATO leaders are poised to adopt a new defence spending goal of 5% of GDP at the summit in The Hague. A move, analysts say, would mark a major diplomatic win for US President Donald Trump and reaffirm the alliance's unity. The proposed target includes 3.5% for core military spending and an additional 1.5% for infrastructure, cyber defence and industry investments.
And it is a summit that reinforces NATO's credibility, its leadership and unity. It will be very much focused on 5% target, and that will be the most relevant to say right now, that it will be the focus of the discussion and also the outcome of the NATO summit at The Hague.
Trump, who has long criticised allies for underspending on defence, is expected to welcome the agreement as a personal victory.
Well, I think NATO should have 5%, yeah. Well, you can't do it at 2%. I mean, at 2%, every country, if you're going to have a country in a regular military, you're at 4%.
However, experts caution that the effectiveness of the pledge depends on the timeline for implementation.
The test of the target will be the timeline. If the implication timeline is actually given at the summit, because there are different perceptions of what it could be. Is it 2032, 2030, 2035? Depending on which member states spends how much on the defense spending, they have different perceptions of how and when they can achieve 5%.
The summit communique is expected to be brief to minimise the risk of internal disagreements. It will aim to highlight NATO's commitment to increase defence investment and alliance solidarity.
A new residential neighbourhood funded by Azerbaijan has opened in Kahramanmaraş, southern Turkey. It includes housing, a school, a kindergarten and a cultural centre. Katie Wilson reports from the site.
Hello, I'm joining you from a very scorching Kahramanmaraş. It's been almost 40 degrees all day here today, but that hasn't stopped local residents from turning out to the opening ceremony of the new residential neighbourhood called Azabaijan. Now, Kahramanmaraş is a name I'm sure you're familiar with, as it was one of the worst affected cities in the earthquake that hit southeastern Turkey in northern Syria 2.5 years ago. Just a reminder of how destructive and devastating that earthquake was. It was one of the most deadly in modern Turkish history. It killed over 55,000 people, injured over 107,000 others, and reduced entire towns to rubble.
We are always by each other's side in good times and difficult times. We multiply each other's strength. Today, the Turkey-Azerbaijan brotherhood and unity are an important factor, not only for our region, but also on a global scale. They are a symbol of security, cooperation, development and brotherhood.
Deprem bölgelerinde yaşayan bütün insanlara
I express the respect and love of the Azerbaijani people to all the people living in the earthquake-affected areas. You know and should know that you have 10 million brothers and sisters in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijanis also know that we have more than 80 million brothers and sisters in Turkey.
This is about the future and about the reconstruction of Kahramanmaraş. The neighbourhood of Azerbaijan has been built using $100 million worth of Azerbaijani aid. It includes not only residential homes but a primary school named Heydar Aliyev, a kindergarten and a cultural centre. Now, President Ilham Aliyev and Recep Tayyip Erdogan have attended this opening ceremony, and they arrived together, which I think wasn't an accident. I think that's symbolic of the brotherhood.
Şunu burada büyük bir memnuniyetle ifade etmek isterim.
I would like to express with great pleasure that under the leadership of Mr. Ilham Aliyev, this extended hand of brotherhood has left its mark on the heart of Kahramanmaraş. In every step taken and every nail driven here, whether in Anatolia or in Azerbaijan, there is the sweat, sincerity and prayer of the Turk.
Türk'ün alın teri, samimiyeti ve duası vardır.
Between these two countries, that is often talked about, and both presidents got a massive cheer from the audience here, and they've thanked Azerbaijan for this neighbourhood. And of course, this isn't just about that short-term immediate humanitarian aid following a natural disaster. It's about that long-term investment in the future of Kahramanmaraş.
Foreign ministers from 57 member states of the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation are set to meet in Istanbul on Saturday and Sunday for an emergency session on the Israeli-Iranian conflict. According to a Turkish Foreign Ministry source cited by Reuters, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is expected to attend. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan is expected to open the summit with a call for Muslim unity in response to what the ministry described as Israel's destabilizing acts. Iran has prevented an assassination attempt on the country's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The announcement was made on X by the advisor to the head of the Foreign Ministry, Mohammad Hussein Ranjbaran. He said that thanks to the unknown soldiers of the homeland, an apparent reference to Iran's intelligence operatives, a major Israeli conspiracy was prevented in recent days. Ranjbaran emphasized that the threat was real and ongoing, especially since Araghchi was preparing to head to Geneva for nuclear negotiations with European counterparts. Russia wants to expand energy cooperation with Kazakhstan. Russian President said the two countries are also discussing joint access to third markets. Fariza Kalimurzina has more.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has confirmed Moscow's interest in expanding energy cooperation with Kazakhstan. During a meeting with heads of international news agencies, he emphasized that the countries are discussing not only domestic cooperation, but also joint access to third country markets, particularly in the oil and gas sectors. Special attention is being given to logistics issues, especially the organization of export routes for Kazakh oil abroad. While specific destinations haven't yet been named, it's known that currently 80% of Kazakhstan's oil is shipped to Europe, including Germany, Italy, France and other countries. The main route is the Caspian pipeline, which passes through Russian territory. Since the start of the war in Ukraine, analysts say Moscow has increasingly used the Caspian pipeline as a tool for political pressure. Deliveries of Kazakh oil have been repeatedly restricted, forcing Astana to look for alternative routes. However, despite these challenges, Kazakhstan has relied on this infrastructure for over 20 years. It's important also to note that since the war began, Russia has partially or fully suspended operations of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium 6 times. In February, the CPC facility was even struck by Ukrainian drones. Kyiv confirmed the attack and warned that similar actions could continue. Experts emphasize that despite these geopolitical risks, the Caspian pipeline remains the most economically effective route for Kazakhstan. It continues to be a reliable and cost-efficient method for oil transport. Kazakhstan is also bound by long-term contracts with several Russian companies, limiting its ability to quickly switch to alternative export routes. Nearly all of its oil production is already contracted, making rapid increases in output extremely difficult. Fariza Kalimurzana, Anewz, in Astana, Kazakhstan.
Startups, investors and tech leaders have gathered in Baku for one of the region's largest innovation events. The two-day summit, known as Baku ID, aims to connect ideas with investment and promote the South Caucasus as an emerging tech hub.
Once defined by oil, Baku is now shining the spotlight on startups and new ideas. Behind me are entrepreneurs, students, investors and business leaders who are hoping to hear ideas and pitch ideas. Interestingly, the myriad of people here are including those in fintech, games, green energy, as well as much more. This might be from Baku, but it's almost certainly for the world. Baku ID is an annual startup and innovation forum in the capital of Azerbaijan. Organisers say the focus is to provide opportunities for emerging local and regional startups.
The number one purpose is to become a platform for startups from Azerbaijan, but also from the wider region, to pitch, to showcase their ideas, and to, most importantly, to fundraise, to be able to survive and to fight the next day, right? The corporates are here, the government is here, academia is here, and not only from Azerbaijan. We understand very well that building an ecosystem here cannot be only local. We need to integrate better with the region.
The Azerbaijani government was also represented at the event, signalling its continued support for the country's growing tech sector. Officials voiced public backing for the startup ecosystem.
Today's event, Baku ID, is one of the prominent events in terms of bringing together startups, investors together for discussion and for networking and for building the relationships that will last for a long time. And as the Ministry of Science and Education, we're ready to support the event through bringing together the platforms that we have.
Alongside showcasing promising startup ideas, this year's event also addresses the question of how to build an economy less dependent on oil and gas.
The Azerbaijani government, seeing the future, already decided several years ago that it needs to transition from gas and oil towards technology. Baku or Sabah Hub and Baku ID is one of the activities showing this capability, and this is a transition that we are now under. We are moving towards technology.
Tech blogger Farid says the event showcases the growing confidence and creativity of the regional startup scene.
Hosting such a regional event in our country can help revitalise the local ecosystem, encourage the emergence of new startups, and strengthen the startup movement. The insights shared by international experts and speakers during the event often inspire participants with new ideas.
Baku ID is drawing the region together, bringing new ideas and new people into one place, becoming a hub for innovation and collaboration across the South Caucasus.
Baku is gearing up to host its first ever UFC fight night. This makes Azerbaijan the 31st nation to host a UFC card.
Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, is set to host its first ever UFC fight night on Saturday, June 21st. As a premier global mixed martial arts organization with a significant international fan base, the Ultimate Fighting Championship's arrival has drawn considerable attention, with people already gathering in anticipation for the event. A press conference for UFC Fight Night Baku was recently held, where participating fighters and event officials addressed the media. Discussions covered fight strategies and the significance of this event in the city. Fighters present commented on the local environment and the forthcoming competition. They acknowledged the event's organization and Azerbaijan's role as host. Preparations continue as fighters finalize their training. An open training session allowed fans to observe the athletes' routines and gain insight into their fight preparation. American fighter Belal Muhammad and Georgian champion Merab Dvalishvili are among the prominent UFC figures present in Baku for the historic event, both praising the host city and its enthusiastic fans.
Congratulations to Azerbaijan, and good job, and whoever did this, whoever make this one happen, it's a government or the people who was working to bring Azerbaijan UFC in Azerbaijan, because we Georgians, we was trying to do, but it's very hard to do it, So hopefully my country will be next to bring UFC in Georgia, but enjoy, guys. You will have lots of good fights, and
it's been amazing. It's been beautiful. Everybody is so nice. The people are really cool. Like, they love the UFC. They love fighting. They're excited about it. So it makes me excited about it. They've all taken us with open arms. So happy about that. Happy about the food. The food has been so good. The sights, the weather has been great. Man, I love it. It's my first time coming here. And it's always one of those where you always heard about it, and it was far away. So I was like, all right, the UFC's going. I want to be a guest fighter here. So I'm excited. I came as a guest fighter, and I cannot wait for Saturday. Saturday's going to be an amazing night.
3 Azerbaijani fighters are scheduled to compete on the fight card. Rafael Fiziev, a lightweight contender, is set to return to action. Tofik Musayev will make his UFC debut, and Nazim Sadikov aims to extend his professional record. The UFC Fight Night, featuring a main event between Jamahal Hill and Khalil Roundtree Jr., will take place at the Baku Crystal Hall, marking Baku's debut as a venue for UFC events.
And there's a flood of stories from the world of sport this week, from football transfers and Premier League fixtures to major shifts in basketball, rugby and cricket. Nick Summerby will take you through the biggest headlines, transfer buzz and key results across the sporting world.
There's a lot of news in the world of sport. I mean, too much news, but I'm going to try and get you the main bit of news. Straight away then, let's look at Wirtz. I did say a couple of weeks ago I thought the deal was done with Liverpool. It is pretty much done and dusted at the moment. But what's coming into play now is Quansah, the central defender, looks like he's going the other way to Leverkusen. Now Wirtz's deal is worth around 110 million. They're looking to get 40 million for Quansah. That makes the deal a little bit more easier. So they're just trying to work that out at the moment. And I'll be telling you as soon as it comes to you straight away what happens. Also, they're looking at Kirkes, the Bournemouth fullback, obviously with Trent Alexander-Arnold going, Frimpong coming into the team. I mean, they're looking, for me, favourites in the Premier League to win the Premier League next season, though. Mudryk, on the other hand, the Ukrainian international Chelsea player, the FA have put an anti-doping ban on him. He has to clear his name, or otherwise he's going to be 4 years out of the game. Hopefully he can sort it out when he can get back playing football, but it doesn't look good for him at the moment. The big news, the exciting news, the one what really gets me going is Nico Williams. Yamin Lamal on one side, Nico Williams on the other. Looks like he's signing for Barcelona on a 6-year deal. Wow, that will take them to another level. Wonder about Rafinha, what's going to happen with him, because he had a massive season as well for them. But huge news. Chris Wilder, I said in the last show that he'd been sacked. It wasn't. It was a mutual consent. He's left the club. Now Ruben Salas, the ex Hull manager, he has taken over, and we know that they just missed out against Sunderland in the playoff final to get to the Premier League, and hopefully he can get them back to the Premier League next season. Going away from football, the LA Lakers are looking to sell their major stake to Mark Walter, who is obviously owner of Chelsea as well. The Buss family, who have been owners for over 50 years, are looking to move it on. So that is huge news, that. So we'll let you know when that has been done. And obviously, as we say with sport, it always evolves, and even in basketball as well. So big change at the LA Lakers. Also away from that is the Premier League. The fixtures have come out. I'm going to go through them quickly with you. There's some mouth-watering games. On the Friday night, we get to see the champions, Liverpool against Bournemouth, obviously with the new signings. Are we going to see Wirtz there? I would imagine Kirkes, as I've just said. And that's obviously looking at their new team and seeing how strong they are. On the Saturday, this is the game for me. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. What a mouth-watering game that is. Brighton, Fulham, Forest, Brentford, Sunderland, the newly promoted, and my old team play West Ham. Spurs versus Burnley under the new manager Spurs against Scott Parker, and then Wolves, Manchester City with this new squad. Sunday is the mouth-watering game for me. First it starts off with Chelsea Palace, and then it is Ruben Amorim with Manchester United versus Arsenal. Arsenal, will they have that striker? A lot of talk at the moment. If they have that striker, I just think they've got every chance of really putting a push to win that title next season. So we look to see what the two teams are going to be like, and it gives us a real bit of an idea in that opening game. Then on the Monday, we've got Leeds versus Everton. Leeds as well have just been promoted. We hope that the three teams which have come up obviously aren't as disappointed as what we saw last season. We need a little bit more fight from them, but it's underway. Premier League not far away, but also the World Club Cup. We are well and truly underway with this now. Just to give you some results, a couple of days ago, obviously Manchester City won 2-0 against Wydad. Real Madrid could only manage a draw, even though they had a penalty which was missed. We're going to see more of those. Al Ain lost 5-0 to Juventus. Then go and bring it on to yesterday. Is Palmeiras, big performance from them. We'll start to see those South American teams really exploding and showing the quality. I think that could be interesting if we get a South American and a European final. While that could be exciting. They won 2-0 against Al Ahly. Inter Miami, second game. They got beaten in their first game. They won 2-1 against Porto. Messi on the score sheet. So welcome to them to the World Club Cup, and especially Messi as well. It wouldn't be the same without Messi scoring a goal. And then Friday, which was last night, Seattle Sounders lost 3-1 to Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid will come strong in the competition, as you would expect. And Paris Saint-Germain, the European champions, who've been absolutely fantastic. They've suffered their first defeat, lost 1-0 to Botafogo. Today, Benfica, Auckland City. It wasn't a good performance from Auckland against Bayern Munich. I think they lost 10-0. So don't expect much. You would imagine that would be a Benfica victory. And Flamenco versus Chelsea. Chelsea looking to get their second win in 2 games. Away from that, if you like your rugby, British Lions are playing Argentina, and if you like your cricket, it's getting to the summer. So in England, it is England versus India. We'll be right across that. So much news. I'll be back to you in a couple of days. I look forward to your company. Thank you very much.
These are the updates from Baku from now. Stay tuned for more and have a good morning.